Midwest city wants landlords to test the water in their units for lead. And in Dumb Tenant of the Day, a tenant is surprised that a landlord doesn't want to help them pay a $700 water bill. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have a couple of interesting articles for you today. And once again, it has to do with, dumb tenants and dumb laws that they've passed throughout the entire country. So in Des Moines, Iowa, they want landlords to test the water in their units for lead. Now, I know lead is an important issue, right? But when we're dealing with a lot of older housing, what we end up with is there's a lot of lead pipes that feed the water into those houses. And now they're saying that, hey, it's the landlord's responsibility to check and make sure that, hey, these lead pipes, they aren't bad for the tenants that are living in these houses, right? Now, I agree that this is an issue, and I don't believe that it's a good thing that people get too much lead exposure, etc. However, remember, this is going to come with a cost. Okay, so when you say, hey, landlords have to do this ridiculous thing that's going to cost them thousands of dollars, I mean, if I had to spend $10,000 replacing pipelines going into my house, well, guess what? That's going to reflect in the cost of rents. So, just expect that, okay? Now, the second thing I have is I'm trying to do a new thing every once in a while, and it's going to be Dumb Tenant of the Day. So I have an article about a tenant who is surprised that, after letting her toilet leak for months on end, she ended up with a $700 water bill. And guess what? The landlord does not want to help her pay it. So yeah, Dumb Tenant of the Day. But before I get into the articles, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think, okay? Do you want to see more of these, Dumb Tenant of the Day type articles, okay? I come across these every once in a while, and I'll throw them into the videos when I can, because it's kind of hilarious just seeing how naive some of these tenants can be and why they expect landlords to suddenly jump out of their way and help them for no good reason, okay? But anyway, let's get into this first article. This article is coming from the Des Moines Register.com, and it says, should Des Moines landlords test drinking water for lead? Council member proposes change. Yeah, and this is one of those topics where, like I said, I'm torn by the issue, okay? I believe that this should be, something that I personally wouldn't want, children especially to be injured by, too much lead in the water, or anyone for that matter, right? I don't think it's really that big of an issue. I believe that there are some older houses where, there are issues with lead being in the water, and that does need to be repaired. But I believe that if the city's going to pass this sort of law, they need to, give landlords some kind of, tax bonus or something to help compensate for the cost, okay? But anyway, let's get into the article and see what it says. Debate erupted among Des Moines City Council members Monday night over a proposal to require rental properties to test for lead in water as part of the coming changes to the city's housing code. Council member Josh Mandelbaum proposed adding language to the new housing code that would require rental property owners to test drinking water for lead as part of the rental certification process. Although several of the council members said they supported the idea, most said they wanted to move the housing code changes forward and come back to the issue later. So yeah, the problem with this is, right, it's part of their rental inspection program within the city, right? They want landlords to test the water for lead. Okay, so there's going to be a couple of problems with this immediately, right? So are they going to say, okay, well, only certain providers are the ones that can do this kind of testing? What kind of reports are going to be required? What kind of testing is going to be required? How much does the testing cost? Okay, and if the testing comes back with too much lead, what does the landlord have to do? These are questions that need to be answered, and they're all going to have a cost for the landlord. So, for example, I don't know how much lead testing costs. I would hope that it wouldn't cost too much, but let's say it costs, $1,000. So $1,000 to do the lead testing. Do I have to test it every time a new tenant moves into my property? So, or do I have to test it annually? What's the story? Let's say we have to test it annually every time that I put in for a new registration. So every year I'm paying $1,000 extra for this lead water testing, right? So you do the math. It's almost $100 extra per month I'm going to have to charge the tenant just to cover the cost of the lead testing. Not only that, but let's say the lead testing thing comes up positive. And now I end up having to replace the main sewer, or not sewer, but water line coming into the house from the street because it's all old, it's all lead, it's leaking lead into the water, and I have to replace all the pipes in the house. Now I want to tell you a little story, because guess what? I actually have replaced all of the lead pipes that were coming into my house, and I had to get rid of an old cast iron sewer line that was going out of the house. It was actually leaking sewer gases into the house because it had a hole in it, right? So I ended up spending in total, I think, and this was back in 2016, I ended up spending around $8,000 replacing all of the old lead pipes, replacing the cast iron sewer line that was going out of the house. I didn't have to go out into the street even, fortunately, because if they had to dig all that up, it would have cost me a great deal more. Okay, so just imagine that you spent all this money, and now how are you going to recoup that? The only way you can recoup that as a landlord is by raising the rents. So this sort of legislation, I personally believe that yes, this thing does need to be done, but what I don't want to see is that, small, trace, minuscule levels of lead that are safe to be within the system are causing landlords to have to spend excessive amounts of money replacing pipes and going through all this effort, right? Because that's what they do. They come in, oh well, it'll be this is a safe amount for everyone else, but for you landlords, you need to replace all your pipes and you need to spend tens of thousands of dollars doing it. And that's probably what's going to happen. Okay, so let's continue. Des Moines Waterworks has identified 20,000 city properties that either have or are likely to have lead service lines, Mandelbaum said. Lead service lines are pipes made of lead can leach the harmful chemical into drinking water. Exposure to lead can lead to health problems, including brain damage and slowed development growth among children. We have a duty to provide safe rental housing, and we know there is a potential hazard with some of these properties, he said. He added he raised the issue during a previous work session, and it was not further discussed. In the ensuing 20-minute discussion, most members disagreed with the idea of adding the requirement to the proposed code changes on Monday. Councilmember Linda Westergaard said she preferred to wait until Des Moines Waterworks could be included in the discussion. Yeah, so at least most of the city council already agrees that, hey, we don't want to add this in there because we want to wait until the water company comes in and says, hey, this is a good idea. Now, just because a property has lead pipes in it does not mean that the lead is leaking into the water and causing a problem. Okay, now in some cases, yes, it does, but that's not a reason for all of these people to have to replace all of the pipes in these houses. So that's why I say, a lot of the times it's just good to leave, good enough alone. Okay, leave it alone. If there needs to be water testing done, it either needs to be paid for by the city or, to me, it just seems like a lot that needs to be required on these landlords. Now, that's why I say when they put these rental registration and inspection processes in place, it becomes basically a cash grab on landlords. The inspection process becomes more and more thorough. They become more often. It becomes more expensive, and the result is that housing costs increase. Now, I do know that, I believe in Cleveland, Ohio, and in other Midwest cities, they've already put the requirement on the landlords to get rid of these lead pipes because of the issues that they've caused. Now, this might become something that happens in, other places like where I invest in Omaha and Kansas City, but not yet. Okay. So, I'm not against that. Like I said, I do believe that, hey, these can be a problem. But like I said before, dumping all that cost onto landlords is going to have an effect. So let's get into the second story I have today, right? And it has to do with this tenant who ended up with this $700 water bill because of her own negligence, essentially. And now she wants the landlord to pay for it. Well, guess what? It was your fault, so you deal with it. So let's get into this article. This article is coming from katv.com, and it says, North Little Rock mother pleads for help after landlord won't assist with a $700 water bill. Yeah, it's kind of funny to me, but let's get into the story and see what her side says. A North Little Rock woman is asking for help with the big problem she's facing after receiving a $700 water bill that her landlord refuses to pay. Brandy Trice told KATV some of the issues she's dealing with include cracks in the ceiling, multiple leaks around the home, and not being able to turn on central air or heat. According to Trice, she and her 7 kids moved in May and have had issues with their home ever since. The Mississippi native says she was unaware what problems would ensue in less than 7 months. Trice said after making phone calls and sending an emailed work order in June that 2 months later someone from Ascend Property Management, the landlord based near Denver, Colorado, sent help. Trice said their maintenance man wasn't much help. The maintenance man that they were going to send over here, when he came over here, he said was too big to fit under the house, so nobody ever came back to fix them, she said. According to Trice, the maintenance man did assess a toilet leak. However, an unexpectedly high water bill left Trice speechless. She believes the leak caused the bill to be so high in a short time. Within a month, it skipped from like maybe $200 a month to $700 a month, she said. So yeah, this tenant just got a taste of the reality that us landlords have been going through for a very long time. Now, I had a property in Arizona that I used to own, and I had to pay all of the water, sewer, and trash on that house, right? So basically, the tenants, the water bill fluctuated greatly from month to month. One month I looked up there and the water bill was $300 higher than it had been normally, right? And I called up my landlord. I was like, hey, listen, get over there, check out all the units and see what the problem is. And guess what it was? It was one of these little toilet leaks. So, the toilet running will actually it's basically just running water 24/7, and the tenant did not report it to the landlord saying, hey, this is a problem. Now, the tenants might be naive and not realize this, right? But that is not the fault of the landlord. The landlord should not be responsible for this sort of bill. And now this tenant is facing the consequences of, hey, when you have a maintenance issue, you need to call the landlord immediately. You cannot tell me, oh, well, the landlord was based in Colorado and they sent a person 2 months later. No, simply put, that's garbage, okay? I am an out-of-state landlord. Okay, I have people locally who do the property management on all of my properties. And you can call them today and they'll have somebody over there in a very short period of time to come assess the problem and fix it. I don't believe that to be the case in this woman's case, and I think she's making up excuses. Now, she says the property isn't in great condition. Well, guess what? You probably rented the property not in great condition because of your budget and your needs. And then you ended up with this high water bill. And fortunately, this is the kind of place where a landlord doesn't have to pay your water bill. So you have that debt if you can't pay it. So next time, you need to call your landlord immediately. Keep calling them day after day and say, hey, I got this toilet leak. Hey, I got this toilet leak. Hey, I got this problem. Call them several times. You don't just let the problem sit for 2 months waiting. That's stupid, okay? So you're the one who caused this problem. You ended up with the bill. Pay it and stop expecting the landlord to pay your bills for you.